This feels like a little bigger fish. I'm making a program today. Yeah, it's a nice one. Roach. I think I'll net this. I'm on the Great Ouse between Downham Market and 10 Mile Bank. Now, this part of the river here is wide and deep, probably the widest and deepest part of the river, but it's full of these beautiful roach. That's a smaller sample, sometimes they're 5 or 6 ounces. So what I've done today is I've fed the pole line, and I'm going to start on the feeder just to get something going while the pole line's building up. And hopefully then I can go on the pole later. That's taking it right down. Had about 3 casts with the feeder, and then I got a fish straight away. So there, just slip that in the net. Now this is part of the drainage system of the fens, the Great Ouse. This is all the drains, the 10 sort of 20 foot, 40 foot, they all flow into this and then down to the sea. And behind us, over there, you've got the tidal ooze. So it's like a simulation of this, but it's tidal all the way down to probably here, so 30 or 40 miles down. 1 or 2 planes about today. So I'm starting on the feeder. I've started on the cage feeder just to get some bait in. It's deep here, probably 5 or 6 metres where I'm casting. But as a cage feeder goes through the water, bits are dropping off. So I'm started on that, and then I'll probably switch to a window feeder later when the fish get there. And all the time feeding the pole line. That's good, I've got the fish there already, sort of 4 or 5 casts, and they're here. So I'm fishing with a 12-foot sphere feeder rod, 1.5 ounce tip. And this reel, I love this black viper reel. I'm using braid so that I'm in contact with the fish all the time. Another nice roach. Let's just net him. So I'm using a 0.12mm sinking braid, Browning sinking braid. It's deep so it sinks easier. That's a typical quality ooze roach. Lovely condition. Took the worm right down. I put worm on because sometimes if you put maggot on you get smaller fish, so a piece of worm quite often will get you bigger fish. There, lovely. Glistening in the sun. Beautiful. I'll talk about my feeder rig in a minute, but you know, we're already in action. 2 fish, I'm feeding that pole line all the time. I'll put another piece of worm on, putting a piece of dendrobina on, which is sort of slightly tougher than say your red worms will be. If I was fishing for small skimmers, I'd probably put red worm on, but I'm fishing with if you're roach fishing on the feeder and you're getting bites on maggot and missing them, then just try a piece of dendrobina. I take the head of the dendrobina off so it's not too tough, and then I can just put the hook through that broken piece that I've broken off, pull it round, and so just left with a small piece of worm. That's a deadly bait for catching roach if you're missing bites, and of course it will catch bream and skimmers as well. So at the moment a front loaded cage just to get some action, because as the cage feeder goes down through the water in the deep water, bits will be coming off to draw fish in. So you build your swim up, and then I'm going to switch to a window feeder later. And all the time I'm going to keep feeding that pole line, hoping that some big roach are going to come there. Nice, squeeze it in tight, because I'm really squeezing that hard in that feeder because it's deep. Bits will still come off, I've picked a target, make sure I've got the line clip on the reel, I've picked a target on the far bank, so I go to it all the time. Just as you cast out, if you lift your rod back, you'll find your feeder will go into the water nicely. So you lift your rod back until it hits the clip and then follow it down. And then if you're really quick, you can get a pouch full of casters in before it hits bottom. Like that. So I'm feeding 2 swims and hopefully, I mean I've fed the pole line with ground bait, so hopefully the roach are going to come on that line later. But this is always a good way to start. Get some fish going. Oh, I felt that one. Bobby's in again straight away. These are good quality roach too. That's that worm that's doing the trick. So I've got a black viper reel, lovely and smooth action. I'm fishing mainly braid, just a short length of mono to fix my rig on. Fish are getting big. Hey, it's a skimmer. Fish are getting bigger all the time. This is a skimmer. We've come today for skimmers, we've come today for everything really. This is a nice skimmer. So very quickly we're into fish. And I'm feeding my pole on as well. This is probably how you'd approach a match. You'd probably start on feeder and then, yeah, lovely. And the fish here are in beautiful condition. Just look at that skimmer. Oh, beauty. Probably 10 ounces, I should think, maybe more. Gorgeous looking fish. Just hooked perfectly in the lip. My hook today here is a 14 sphere match, but it's perfect for, it's quite a big hook, but perfect for worm fishing. Lovely Brim. Hey, what a great start. This is fabulous fishing. I mean, not many casts and already into another good fish. That bit of worm is the secret today, definitely. What this is, don't know whether it's a roach or a skimmer or what it is. Just seem to be catching different fish. This is definitely a hybrid, this one. Small, well, still not bad. They are in such good condition, these fish. No, do you know what that is? That is what they call a silver bream. See the slight orange on the fins here? Looks a bit like a skimmer, doesn't it? But slightly orange. If you caught a pound silver bream, that would be a big fish. But that's what it is. Lovely fish, 6 ounces. Beautiful. Well, I'm going to put this one in the net and then I'll just go through the rig with you, the actual bottom part of the rig, because that's important for getting no tangles and for hitting bites. Must explain my feeder setup to you because it's so simple and you fish all day without a tangle. So I've got a fairly wide gape hook there. That's a 14 sphere match hook, lovely wide gape, and it's tied to 0.14mm line, so fairly strong, probably 4 or 5 pounds. I always talk in millimetres because I think line diameter is more important than breaking strain, because that's the resistance that a line offers the fish when it sucks in. So the thinner the line, the easier the bait will move, because if you have big thick line, it offers more resistance, doesn't it, as the fish suck it in. So I think a finer, not too heavy a line, but a finer line, always talk in diameters. Then there I've got a small, very small connector there. That's a Browning connector which I can just push this little black thing back and change the hook as easily as anything. But there is a swivel on there, so it stops the line from twisting up as you're coming back. Mind you, I always come back with a fish, so it doesn't happen. But if you're not coming back with a fish, you know. And then I've got a 2 metre length, about 2 metres I reckon that is, of 0.26 Browning feeder mono, Browning line. So, but that's really strong, like about £12. And I don't know if you can see that, but there, just let me hold that up for you. That's just a little paternoster loop there, just a short paternoster. All you do is if you tie an overhand loop in your main line, that's your paternoster link, and then you can just put a little swivel on there. I've threaded a swivel on there. And that's for river fishing. A fairly short link, keep everything down. We're on a river, not a lake. And then up to the braid itself, and I find the easiest way to connect the braid, there is braid knots, but if you're not sure about braid knots, just do an overhand loop in your braid, and then for your mono, a tucked half blood. So you put it through a blood knot, 5 turns, but make sure you tuck it, and that'll never break. Let's get back and catch some more fish. Really is incredible fishing on the feeder. I don't even know if it's going to be worth going on the pole, because I'm just catching good quality fish all the time. Lovely and smooth. The thing is, when you're using braid, you always see the bites much better. Say you're on normal mono, you just can't see the bites the same, but with braid, even with these skimmers, and they're reasonable size, you just see the little trembles. And you don't have to strike. With braid, you just lift into the fish. No violent striking needed. This is a proper skimmer. Not massive like Brim would be, but just lovely quality fish. Just what I've come today, really, to catch. This is just what you'd expect to catch on a feeder, fishing in the deep water on the ooze. Incredible condition fish, just lovely lip hook, that one. Just a beautiful skimmer. 3 or 4 years, that would probably weigh about £5, that one. Lovely fish. Lovely easy day on the feeder at the moment. This is why you need a wide gape hook, especially when you're fishing worm. What I do is I take the head off the dendrobina. There's a sort of a band mark on the worm, so I take that head off, and then you'll find that you can, all the juices are flowing out of the worm, so that attracts the fish naturally where I've broken it. So I'm putting the hook in, right in through that broken bit there, like that. Just put it in and sort of thread it round. Luckily I've got good fingernails, and then just break the worm off like that. So you're left with just a small piece of worm threaded round the hook, but juice is coming out of both ends. So the fish get hold of it, but they keep hold of it. Whereas with maggots, they bash the maggot and then they spit it out. But with that, you'll find, especially for skimmers, they will hang on to a worm. I've just switched to the window feeder, which is something which I invented many years ago for browning, but it's a way of getting a lot of particles down onto the bottom with no cloud coming off, so you tend to catch just bigger fish, but you can get lots of particles down. Yeah, another goodish skimmer. Yeah, nice skimmer. Lovely, and it really works. I just switched to that window feeder, and immediately, probably one of the biggest skimmers we've had. Just nice to be coming here catching fish. Just Sometimes as you're bringing in a skimmer, sometimes the line gets caught round it, but the skimmer's hooked properly. Look at that, lovely fish. Nice big hook, that 14 hook makes a difference. Long landing net handle, get out to the fish. Oh, lovely. The thing is, when you're catching fish like that, you think, oh, should I go on pole? And that's perfectly hooked again, just in the lip. That big wide gate hook makes all the difference. Window feeder getting the bait down. Lovely skimmer, well over a pound. Beautiful fish. Can't wait to get back out there again. Would you believe it, going back to the sort of late 1700s, early 1800s, most of the land around here was covered with water. It's only because of the work by these Dutch engineers into building these drains and draining the land so that we could actually live here. A lot of the land here is underwater, was underwater, not is underwater, was underwater. But these are lovely quality fish we're catching now with that window feeder. We can have a look at the window feeder in a minute and how it works, why it works. Another nice skimmer. You hardly miss any bites when you're using a window feeder because as it goes in the water, it sort of sits upright. So when you get a bite, the feeder's upright, you just lift in and you seem to connect with the fish much more. Another skimmer city at the moment. But these fish don't look like they've ever been caught before. But they must, well, I don't know. Just perfect condition. That one's really, really wriggling, but perfectly lip hooked, and that's a proper skimmer. Lovely. The window feeder's working. I'll just show you how you fill up the window feeder and actually how it works. You can see why I call it a window feeder. That's exactly what it is. See that window cut out there? That I can then fill that with particles and then just smear some ground bait over the window so it just seals it, goes straight to the bottom, and it sits on the bottom like that. It just means you hit more bites. Nothing's obscure, and you see more bites and you hit more bites. And it gets loads of particles to the bottom. So I've got a mixture of chopworm and caster, and I'm filling that feeder up with chopworm and caster, like that. And then just put that in your ground bait, and if you just press your thumb on it, just to smear a little bit of ground bait over the window, that traps everything. And the good thing about these is they cast so well. Because they're front loaded, just cast out dead straight. This one's a 30 gram small window feeder. I do loads of different sizes, but that's perfect for here. But because it's front loaded, that will cast perfectly. I pick my target to cast to, and just go up, and it's so easy. You can achieve such a great distance with these, with accuracy as well. I'm only going probably 35 metres here, just casting into the real deep water, and then tightening up to it, looking for the bite. If I get a bite straight away, it's probably, if I get a little flicker, it's probably a roach, so I try and ignore that. I'm looking to catch bigger skimmers. As that bit of worm is dropping down through the water, the roach probably will try to take it. But I don't need to be quick, because a skimmer bite, it will just, it's nothing like a roach bite. You just get a proper indication and just lift into it. Now with this feeder, and I've got a bite now, lifted into the fish. This boy is good, isn't he? Lifted into a nice big skimmer again. How long did that take? So we're after big fish. The window feeder's perfect for this. Just winding steadily because I'm using braid. Now braid has got no stretch at all. It doesn't normally want to sink because it's a series of fibres. And air is trapped in the fibres, but this is a special sinking braid, and it's the best that I've used. Just coming through there. Yeah, another lovely skimmer. This particular stretch of the Ouse is owned by King's Lynn Angling Association. And it's a day ticket water, only £5 a day, so not expensive. But here you catch these lovely wild fish, never been caught before. Never seen a hook before, these fish. And that's the efficiency of a window feeder. How well you cast out, how you can hit every bite, how it gets a load of particles onto the bottom. And the result is lovely skimmers. And they are really powerful fish. Lovely. Maybe I'll have a look at that on that pole line in a minute and see if any fish are there. Just switch to the pole. I've been feeding there all day, so just all the time feeding while I was out on the feeder. But I wanted some big fish, so I was catching out there. I was catching those skimmers on feeder. So I thought, I wonder if they're in close. I put a big piece of worm on. Nice size float, 3 gram float, so heavy. Whether it's a big roach or a big skimmer, I don't know. No, it's a skimmer. Now this particular stretch belongs to King's Lynn AA. And it's a day ticket water, £5 on the bank, which isn't expensive, and you're catching these quality fish. Yeah, that's on. So the switch to pole, I think, is working. Skimmer on the pole. A little bit shallower water there, but I've got a nice heavy rig on. Good size hook. Once again, when you're using worm, you can fish with a big hook. It's only just hooked inside the mouth. Beautiful fish. Let's have a look at that fish. If I can get rid of that. They kick a bit. You know when you get hold of fish, look at me covered in slime. There, look at just a lovely quality skimmer on worm, probably just over £1/2, I think, but on those balls of ground bait that I cupped in, they're obviously feeding there now. I'm never happy with what's happening, so I've just cupped in 2 more balls of ground bait, and I've switched back to caster again. Well, I was getting a few little fish on caster, but so I switched. I love fishing caster. Nothing better than single caster for big roach. But I think I've got a skimmer on it. There's another good fish. This is a bit lighter rig. This one is a 2 gram rig, 1.3 microbore elastic. I love using microbore. Yeah, it's a skimmer. Skimmers do love casters. We call them skimmers because they skim across the water, look like that. Nice long handle under the fish. Perfect. On a single caster. I sort of switched back. I was on worm, I switched back to caster. I thought, oh well, I'll catch a nice big roach now, and I'll catch a skimmer. Lovely fish. They really are. Really just not been caught before. They're just wonderful, perfectly hooked in the top lip. I think now it's not worth me going back on feeder because now I'm catching some better fish now, and it's taken a while to get them going on the pole, but the good thing is if you fish the feeder and then keep feeding the pole line, then it gives a chance of the fish to settle on your bait, you know. But sometimes if you go right on where you're feeding, say the pole straight away, you can unsettle the fish. But they've had a long while I've been fishing the feeder, to settle on the bait. And I just cupped in 2 more balls, went out with caster, and it buried straight away. So I'll stick to that for a minute. Caster's a wonderful bait. to use. Just half bury the caster. So part of the hook is showing. You don't have to completely bury it, not unless the fish are really shy, then sometimes you can. So I'm fishing 2 gram float as I go out, just always lay the bait downstream. The fish will be facing the stream and it's running a little bit to my left down towards Denver Sluice. So I'm laying the bait in, the fish will be facing that way. They always face the flow because that's where the feed's coming, isn't it? It's coming from down the river, so they're facing. So that's how you want to flick your bait in. And quite often you can catch fish on the drop doing that. And every time I'm loose feeding, watching that float as it's settled, if it doesn't settle properly, which it hasn't this time, then you can strike. No bite, no fish that time, probably a small fish. When you're feeding with a catapult, just trap the pole with your arm across your leg, and then you do everything in reverse. You push the catapult forward. Bobby's got one as it went in, and then you just let go. And that was a roach on the drop, which I did normally expect to be catching roach on the drop. This would definitely be a roach because it was on the drop. So, oh, don't tell me. Hey, it's a skimmer on the drop. You wouldn't expect a. I'm not saying anything else. It's a nice skimmer on the drop. Took caster. So they must be coming up for that loose feed. But lovely quality fish every put in. You can see the caster blowing up the hook. Yeah. Oh, do you know what? I think it may be, do you know, like one I caught earlier, it's a little bit of a hybrid in it, and so that's why it took it. So it's a little bit, it's a cross between, it's not a pure skimmer, that. Cross between a roach and a bream. More bream than anything, but no, that's not a proper skimmer. On caster, look at that blowing up the hook. Bit of slime. So the pole's going really well now, caught on feeder and now on pole. Fish every cast. Just swing this fish in and then we'll have a look at the rig I'm using. Some small roach out there. There's a mixture really of, oh, this is not too bad. Just about swing this one though. That one's on maggot. I'm swapping between maggot and caster. So let's have a look at the rig I'm using. The hook is a size 16 Sphere Classic. It's just a sharp, very sharp, longest shank hook so I can half bury a caster or a single maggot. It's not really a big hook. It says 16, but I think it looks more like an 18. And then 0.12 hook length. So that's pretty strong. 0.12 in this hybrid power mono is about 3 or 4 pounds, so it's really strong. And then where I've joined the hook length and the main line, I use a little knot called, it's a 3-turn surgeon's knot. That's what I call it, but it's a tiny little knot and never tangles, so that's how I prefer to do it. And I've got a number 8 shot against that. And another number 8 shot, probably about 10 centimetres away, and then another on number 8. So I've got 3 number 8 shot, and then the Olivet. Now the Olivet is, so it's a 2 gram float I've got on here. So the Olivet is 1 3/4 gram, and then plus I've put any extra shot. So I know my droppers want to be number 8s. So any extra shot I put just under the Olivet. So it's not really doing anything. It's just adding to the weight to get the float exactly right. So it's there's another 3 number 8s there, and then a little stock just to get the float exactly right. Main line is 0.14, so that's 5 or 6 pounds, so nothing's going to break you. And then the float itself, I use the floats. Actually, this particular float is named after me. It's called a Bob Nudd BN DT Nevis float. When you're using if you look at the float, it's a real fine carbon stem. That's better than wire, more robust than wire, but it's very slim, so it doesn't put any weight, it doesn't take any weight away from the float itself. Then the body of the float it's like a high density polystyrene, so it doesn't matter if that line cuts into the body of that float, it doesn't matter at all. It just will never, once it's set, stays the same. Nothing worse than getting your float set up and then gradually it starts to sink, so that keeps exactly the same. And then a little trick for you, over the bristle, if you paint that black, that tip is orange, so, but if you say use a black marker pen and black, then it ruins the float, doesn't it? But I've got a piece of silicone, tight silicone, just over that. Increases the size of the bristle slightly, so it's good when you're fishing out like we are, fishing right out, you can see it better. But if I want then to go back to the original float, I'll just pull that silicone off. And then up to the elastic, which is a 1.3 microbore elastic. Now microbore elastic, that's a combination between a solid and a hollow. So it's got a hollow piece through it, just stretches more. So I prefer to use that when you've got a biggish float in deep water. That's a better elastic to use. And then just a Dacron connector on the end. That's a Browning Dacron connector. And you just attach the line, you just loop it over and it hooks around that small knot there. It's just so easy to do, so, but never catches up. Fish all day with that. So that's the rig, a nice simple rig. I've got another rig set up, a 3 gram, which is virtually the same, just a bigger hook on it, slightly stronger line. So I've got a 3 gram with a size 15 sphere classic hook, slightly 012 hook length still, and an 016 main line. So and a slightly bigger elastic too. So, but very, very similar. I've had a fabulous day fishing. Catching first on that window feeder, those big skimmers, and now catching skimmers on the pole as well, skimmers and good quality roach. But I've had to put a piece of worm on, that sort of eliminated the smaller roach. Don't know what this fish is. Another skimmer. Smaller one, but do you know what? I'm out of bait now, so I've got to pack up. I can't. Normally you can stay and fish on a bit and enjoy it, but I can't because I've got no casters left at all. This is another one of those silver bream that we caught. We caught one earlier on the feeder, and this is a silver bream. Lovely one to finish the programme with. So a combination today of on the Great Ouse, on the Denver. Yeah, these are so fat. What I told you about those orange fins there. So we're on the Great Ouse between 10 Mile Bank Village and Denver. It's a big, deep river full of quality fish that probably have never seen a hook. That's a nice one. Bobby's out of bait, so that's just a lovely fish to complete the programme on. Some on pole, some on feeder.